Guys, welcome to the Jay Scott Outdoors podcast. I'm here in my family room of the guest house here in Paradise Valley, Arizona. Usually Cody and I are outside, but it's a little chillier right now, so we're inside with the heat on.
Yeah, a little chilly.
Got Cody Nelson here, my buddy, 25, 30 years, the glassing guru, the optics manager at GoHunt.com. Cody, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's great.
We haven't been to it. We had a little space there. You've been busy. You've been jet setting.
I know it's one of those things that our schedules just didn't seem to align, but here we are, and we're sitting right before Christmas time here in 2022. 2022 is almost over. I mean, we have 10 days or so left in the month.
Well, the fact that it's literally Christmas in 5 days is just where did the year go?
Yeah, it's pretty incredible as it relates to Go Hunt and the journey of seems like 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
With you as the optics manager and the growth of Go Hunt. How is it going here in 2022?
It's incredible. First of all, and the clients and the repeat and the ecosystem that's been created and that I get to. Am fortunate and love being involved with, and I mean, just it never ceases to amaze me the amount of people, new, coming from places that I've never heard before, signing up new people. They just keep coming, and there's so much stuff coming from the east to the west. And it's fun getting to talk to those guys because it makes you kind of humble and makes you kind of remember and makes you kind of think about what we maybe have taken for granted of how special being out west is. And there still is that, what's the Western books, Lou L'Amour or whatever. I mean, there's still that fantasy with going out west. And I think it's, we're helping people provide or helping people with that dream, I guess, because now it's not the Old West and it's not the guns a-blazing, but it is.
Some parts it is.
Well, some parts it is, but yeah, it's been an incredible ride, and I absolutely get to work with some of the most talented, greatest group of outdoorsmen, people. I mean, just their pure passion about what they're doing, and then to watch them do that in a business setting, and have that kind of be that camaraderie. It's amazing, and it's amazing to watch even the people that don't even hunt in our business, that just absolutely have a newfound respect, appreciation, understanding. Of these guys aren't just a bunch of gun-toting, crazy guys. They live it. They love doing it. They're fully involved with it, year round. And we keep hearing that message over and over and over again.
How is I haven't seen the new headquarters, the Go Hunt headquarters. They've gone from one to another, I believe 3 different moves, maybe 4.
I think I was at the second one, and then that's when we had a warehouse. But yeah, we've moved twice since then. And I mean, it is, you walk in and you're thinking, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a lot of the pictures and the videos, and the place looks amazing. So for the people out there listening, Cody and I was actually in Cody's wedding.
Yeah.
I say 20 years ago, and the reality is I'll be 50 next month. It's probably 30 years ago. We've known each other a long time, but you have been, kind of taken over the whole optics department, and you're the manager of that whole department up there. Sir. And you handle, customer service, talking every day on the phone to customers, and talking optics, selling optics, talking glassing, gear, etc. Did you ever think when you first started at Go Hunt that the capacity and the volume of sales
Had-
that you guys
had-
do now was even
No.
possible?
No, because willingly there was expectations and not like, oh, Cody, you will do that. It's not like that at all. It was like, hey, we want to keep growing this and do this. And there would be numbers thrown out, and people would say, oh, we want you to do this, and I'd be like, oh, wow, that's a pretty tough number. Kind of been there and done that, and that's we're gonna get over that hump, but it's gonna take a little bit. And then all of a sudden, just with that again. That what I call that go hunt push. I mean, it literally is. It's been amazing to watch it grow like that. Just because you have the insider and you have everything that we do with that, and people are hungry for information.
Sure.
And just in that sentence, it allows me to do so much with people, and spend time and help put things together and help put systems together and help. And again, it all comes back to creating that opportunity for someone to be more successful in the field. And that's, at the end of the day, that's what the whole Go Hunt ecosystem is about. Is literally just making somebody their experience in the field, maybe cutting away some of the not learning experience. Everybody's going to go through those learning curves, but we're trying to help people cut, just
dive right in
and like here, this is the stuff you need to be successful. And the text messages I get, the emails I get, the message we get at Go Hunt, I mean, it literally is working, and it is creating that environment for people to have fun, be successful. And I don't mean successful just by killing game. I mean, that's all part of it, but some guys will call you and say, hey, yeah, I didn't shoot anything, but boy, I saw more game than I've ever seen before just because of, the way that you did this. And I would just be, I can't even imagine if I was trying to keep all that stuff inside. Sure. And not helping people do that.
Sure. I've felt that way with this podcast a lot. We've got a bunch of questions that I want to dive into here on the Q&A about optics, glassing, gear, etc. Before we do that, you are going to be, looks like, doing some late coos deer hunting here in Arizona due to a tag being turned in and given back.
For all the people that don't believe in the system, and I will admit that sometimes I get luckier than some guys, but my wife actually somebody turned their tag back in. Arizona Game and Fish called, said, hey, and the benefit of this deal is that we are actually giving that tag to my kid, and this is the last time that he can go on a hunt on a quote unquote youth, deal, and we're so happy about it because my dad died a month ago, which is kind of odd we're talking about it, but my brother's going to be in town, my nephew's here, both my boys are off school, my daughter is who's she's so quiet about certain things, but she's like, Dad, can I go on this one? And I was like, whoa, I mean, it just rocks me, like, because, she's, the social part of it and the kids and what they're doing. And then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, so you do want to go on these deals. So this is going to be a really cool time. And I have zero expectations other than to be with my family and have fun.
Yeah. And
if we get to kill a buck or, get to see it, that's all we care about, and we're just going to go have some fun on it. But boy, do I feel really, just as lucky as it can possibly be to be the recipient of, the system working in the way that I think it should work.
Sure. With this, so we've had what I would call a cold snap here in Arizona.
Oh, yeah.
Seemed like the last 7 to 10 days. It's going to warm up a little bit. But it seems like the last 7 or 10 days have been really cold compared to normal.
Well, in the Nelson house, if my wife, Miss Nellie's is turning the heat on,
we know it's
it's cold.
Yeah, and Just curious what you're hearing out there as far as rut reports. If the coos deer, it's the 20th of December. If you're hearing if they're nosing around, I'm hearing of small bucks kind of moving around, checking does.
Ty and I went and checked a spot on let's see, that would have been Sunday evening, or yeah, Saturday evening, and of the 10 does that we saw, it's one of those things that you just, old habits are hard to break. But I saw these does moving, and I told Ty to check the backtrack and where that doe had come. Sure enough, here comes a little buck, just trailing. Not nose to the ground, like pushing her, but definitively 100 yards back off the trail. Sure enough, there was 2 different instances where that deal happened, and there was a buck following that doe. So the little bucks are definitely out and moving, and in this particular pocket anyway.
Yeah.
So
I think it's going to be a great after Christmas season. We always say on these December hunts, the last part of the hunt usually is the best. So
weather's right, moon's right, timing's right. So yeah, I have some good expectations for that part of it.
Good. Well, let's dive into some of these questions and have some fun with this. First question is best spotting scope between $1,000 and $2,000.
Well, you got to talk about the Vortexes, the Razor HDs. You got to throw the Zeiss Gavi in there, at the upper end of that, and you can't not mention the Santium, the XX5s. All of those will do a great job. There's some differences a little bit, and some of those are 85 millimeters versus 80 millimeters. The power ranges will change just slightly on the lower ends, but all of those are good quality, mid-tier, excellent pieces, of gear that people will be able to be successful with.
Swarovski ATC STC review and thoughts, please.
Oh, geez. That piece, and Jay, you know me for years now. I've been asking actively in the optics business. I've been asking and pushing for a compact spotter from one of anybody that makes high-end glass. I've been begging for it for years. Kowa did a great job, and still, don't get me wrong, that Kowa 553, 554, that's an incredible piece of gear. It's a great price point. But I'm not going to tell. When the ATC STC came out, I was completely blown away by it. I think the best part of it is that you're at that 2 pound range. It's super small. Have you? I
haven't looked through it yet.
Okay, and they've been really tough to. I gotta kind of put a little thing out to our customers. Our customers have been so excellent about this and so patient with this, because Swarovski went through some changes at the end of August, and they were trying to implement a system, and it is going to work, and we've been asking for this kind of thing for years. And so they just picked the time to do it, and anytime that you put software into a system and blah, 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 sometimes everything doesn't take the way it should. So there was supposed to be an October 1 delivery. There wasn't an October 1 delivery, and all of that got pushed back. So I'm just simply telling everybody that, this is not usual for Swarovski. There's been like every, Lycos, Zeiss, and they've all gone through these changes with their delivery system. So there's been some really interesting things happening.
So in other words, they jumped the gun and promoted it, but then they can't deliver?
Well, yeah, but the thing is that it was just a simple system of, they were just trying to get deliveries from Austria and the products made, and now we're getting flowing of it. And so, like, there's a giant shipment supposed to be coming in today, and so we're getting pretty excited about it. So I just wanted to give a shout out to our customers who've been really patient. So that's number one. But the weight that people have, I have been blown away by the messages that I've gotten over the people that have received theirs. And it has been, it's the same aperture as the X series. Super lightweight. The 17 power on the low, the magnification on the low end is incredibly, easy to look through, and would be a really, I would term that as a viewfinder, and as soon as you find it and you go to start ripping on the power and going back up, man, it goes all the way through the power range, and in little spotting scopes, when you get below a 2 millimeter exit, people, boy, sometimes things tend to fall off the table a little bit in terms of light gathering. Well, there was no fall off on this. This thing has been an incredible piece of gear to play with. And, it will be a part of my system for sure.
So the power range is
17 to 40.
Okay.
And
by 55.
A 56 millimeter.
56.
And I think the interesting part about this piece is that it's integral. It's all one piece. You're not taking two pieces
It's not a modular system.
It's not a modular system at all. And so the only thing that I can surmise from some of this, and I haven't met any of the engineers that were on the project. I'm hoping to do that when we're at SHOT Show and talk to some of those guys, but you don't have two pieces that you're putting together. So you don't have those filters that are, every piece of glass you add in there is doing something to it, but it just seems incredibly efficient for how small and the power ranges that you're going through. So
do you think, thinking out loud, I haven't seen it yet, haven't put my hands on it. Do you think it would be a candidate for twins? Or do you think the eyepiece is too wide?
Well, okay, so Adam's adapters, we've been talking to him, and he and I have been going through that together. I will absolutely tell you that the idea came up right away, but then I gotta be honest with you, what are you gaining? Like, even if it was...
Well, it's going to be lighter than my twins now,
well,
probably.
But you got a 1556. So I could make the argument, you could turn the power up on one of them, but it's...
Well, one of the things I like about the twins is the fact that in one eye, when you find something, you can then
you
zoom
can
in.
absolutely turn it up, absolutely.
And so, you basically have a 17 by 56, but the option to go to 40. Right?
This is true, and I'm not saying I'm not. The thing is that what we've come down to this. The guys that are going to be, if it's possible and it's done, the guys that are going to be able to do it are going to be the guys that have a really wide IPD.
Yeah, and that rules me out.
So
and that's why people have asked me, like the twins with the STX.
Yep.
And I'm like, my eyes are so narrow, the ocular lens, they're too big for me to get my eyes close enough together.
Jay, I know guys that have taken a bandsaw to them. Not a band, I'm sorry, a belt sander.
And tried to
thinned them out and sand them up. And I guess if that's what you want to do, but...
on the actual rubber?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, on the X series.
And have they got it to work?
As a matter of fact, I've looked through a set, but I don't have to have mine.
Right.
I don't know.
You're not a squinty eye.
I'm not. I don't know.
My eyes are so close together. Like on the 15s, I have to. The old eye cups, that had the ring on the outside.
Yep.
I have to pull those off.
But on the new ones, you should be.
Which, by the way, that is. This is off the top of the question, but the other day I was sheep hunting, and on the 12 NL Pures, I just took my knife out and cut the eye cups off.
Well, why?
I got tired of having the eye cups there and then pull out of my bino harness, look around, and then have to pop the eye cups back on. So I just cut them off. Heck with them.
But, Jay.
I like the concept.
Jay, I know, but
I like the concept. but every time back and forth into my bino harness, having to, and they don't like.
So
I would say they're very secure, but they're not easy to click up and click out. Like there's a definite a pop.
There's a definite positive. There's a resistance, and there's a definite.
Yeah, and they did what they wanted to do, but not what I wanted to do. So I literally cut them and just threw them.
But Jay, you know that you could have taken them off.
No, I just cut them.
That might be, well, it's not my favorite Jay Scott story.
I got so tired of that. I just took my knife and just went cut, problem solved.
So in the package,
I don't read the directions.
I know you don't. Spatulas. There are, when you take those off, when you clip them off the little wire sets in there, you can put the spacers back on there so it creates a nice little ring.
Yeah, I'm sure.
But I'm sure. It's not going to affect your glassing.
Someone finds some eye cups out in the middle of Unit 22
so this is the thing that I would tell you. This is a good conversation because, look, when I have my chest harness on, I take my eye cups off. I don't need, there's some guys that want to, and I get it. They spent $3,200 plus tax or whatever the deal is on a pair of optics, and they're like, I don't want anything bad to happen. I agree. I totally get it. But you also spent, $125 on an awesome, like I love my marsupial gear, and I know that Jim builds that stuff, so it's, that's going to protect my optics. Why would you go through all that? Why would you go through that? And then the other thing is that I can't stand the drag of when you're putting your optics in your harness of the tips of the cups raking on the.
I cut them flush.
Yeah.
I pulled
That's
and
awesome.
cutted.
Well, so yeah. So
solve
now
that problem.
Swarovski's going to get. Well, they got a warranty issue now. Swarovski's going to say they hear that Jay Scott said just to cut them.
Just cut
and
them.
For I just want to be clear as the Swarovski representative at the table right now. I would tell you that you can gently pull those off, and then you can put the spacers on just so that everybody's clear. And if everybody's got any questions about that one, please call me.
Don't call Jay.
And by the way, if you don't want your cups and you're going to get rid of them, just send them to me because I got plenty of guys that lose them. And
Jay needs spares.
Yeah, and Jay needs spares now. So, but yes.
Okay, back to the ATC.
Back to the ATC. So the twins. Adam is an incredibly smart dude. He's building some awesome products, and he'll get them as close together as you can. I'm not saying that this is not a good idea. I'm just saying for my own personal things, because once I put something in those vices, me personally, I'm not taking them in and out. I'm leaving them put. So.
I haven't touched mine since I've had it.
I don't mind the idea about, it would just be, if we could do one to see how it all works out, I would feel more comfortable saying that I'm 100% behind it. But all the other twins, absolutely, knock yourself out. Let's get after it.
Speaking of eye cups on the ATC, STC, does the eye cup stay on, or does it come off?
No. There is no break. You cannot take the. Oh, you mean the actual eye cup
on the objective side?
No, they're clip-ins just like the other spotters.
Okay, so they're removable.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting. So there's a lot of different ways. They show pictures of people hand holding it, and I'm a tripod guy. I'm never going to hand hold a 17 power anything. So let's just be really clear. I think it's an interesting idea because I think what's going to happen is that you've seen the old Western sheep hunting pictures of the guy laying the spotting scope in the crease of his hat, his cowboy hat, and using that as his tripod, so to speak. there is an element to that.
Don't ever do that with me, please.
Well, no, I won't. But I'm just saying it's just not my way. But the way that they've created this is that there is an actual. I want to call it like a. It almost looks like an orthotic, and it literally fits on the bottom mold of the spotting scope. And what the reason they have it is that you can hold it, or you could wedge it into a sandbag, and you can still turn the focus dial. So
Wait a minute. So you can easily turn the focus dial?
Oh yeah,
there's no
resistance
with the STX is in the power range ring, not the
Correct.
fine focus ring, but the power range. It's pretty.
You kind of got to get on it.
You got to get on it
a little bit,
and almost like when you're on a buck and looking a long ways, and you go to hit the range.
You better have your stuff tight. You better have some resistance on your tripod. Yeah, you got to be fairly careful when you do that. But I'll tell you, the focused and the I mean, there's none of that. It's dialed.
Nice. I'm excited to look through the piece. I think where it's going to fit a real niche is sheep hunters. Coos deer hunters, guys that are cutting weight.
Guys that are cutting weight, and I'll tell you the guy that's just simply using 1042s, 1050s, 1242s, 1250s, that, and then he wants just a lightweight spotter. That I would tell you that's most of the guys buying it. Period.
Yeah,
they just flat out trying to cut weight.
Any difference between STC and ATC as far as the angled straight?
Nope.
It's your same angle. It's everything to your eye feels good.
I'm just telling you, when you look through it for the first time, the aperture is so nice and easy and comfortable to look through. It's completely different than almost any other small spotter that I've messed with.
Okay, next question. This guy is saying he's for the Wasatch Muleys, so he's up in Utah.
Okay.
It says add BTX, have ATX with 85 millimeter objective or 15 by 56 Swaros for Wasatch Muleys, run 10 by 42. So it sounds like he has 10 by 42s
1556
in his chest harness. And then he's asking, add the BTX. He already has the ATX spotting scope, 85 millimeter.
So there's a lot of people going through that right now. And I would come back to the best way for me to answer that one would be is to say, how much time are you spending looking at stuff at mileage? Not 500 yards, not 1,000 yards, but how much time...
A mile plus.
If you're looking a mile plus and you're looking, and you're wanting to see from, this side, all the way left peripheral, all the way right, and look at this huge giant mountain, the BTX, that would be perfect. Not saying you couldn't do it with a set of 15s, not saying you, but in perfect comfort and looking at 30 power, I think that's, to me, that, I don't know. I go back to it again. Jay, I haven't even pulled a pair of binoculars out to look through them in terms of the couple times I've scouted. It's been BT. I'm looking at pockets of does right now. I want to figure out where the does are. I'm just looking for pockets of deer.
So if he's hunting muleys, though, my argument would be, if you're not looking at that mile plus all the time,
right?
Yes, getting the BTX eyepiece would be a great addition because he could pop it on his 85 and he would have that capability. But I believe if he's doing the Western muley glassing techniques that we all know and the type of country that I know he's hunting, one would argue maybe if those 10 by 42s are on a tripod, he might be picking up all the deer. But I would maybe argue the 15s if he's just doing moderate glassing all the time. It
kind of goes back to the 10, 15, and spotting scope. It's the trio that's worked forever for big game glassing like that for really long distances.
Right.
So it's always a tough call, but I would just For me, I always go back to the BTX in terms of how much I scout with it, or if I'm helping somebody. If I'm looking at that mile plus, then I go the BTX. But if it's that under stuff and you're just doing I'm never going to just tell you that I don't believe in a 10, a 15 in like an 85 millimeter or whatever. I still think that's a really go-to, do everything, go anywhere in the world kind of system.
Okay, next question. Swaro 25 to 50 or 20 to 60 magnification. Not sure which to get with the ATS spotter. So he has
the older
version.
ATS. So here's the thing. The 20 by 60 is the eyepiece that has been around forever. It's a great eyepiece. It's pretty much if it's an STS or ATS 80, it's kind of that spotting scope that all others were judged by, at least in the last 20 years. At least back to the 2000s, right? So, the difference between the eyepiece is that the 25 to 50 has elements of field flattener and edge-to-edge clarity, and I actually like the eyepiece better. It's because it's such a wide, much for the power, magnification for magnification, it's a wider field of view.
Which one?
The 25 to 50.
Right.
And then people would say, oh, well, it didn't go to 60. Well, most of the time, I'm not turning it up to 60 anyway. I might go to 60, but with that older eyepiece system, I was always kind of going back to that
55.
About 50 to 55. I mean, whatever the situation called for, whatever looked good when I was at the time. But I've just come to appreciate that I love the 20. I love the 25 to 50, yeah. And it kind of makes me kind of feel like I'm looking through a set of ELs.
Yeah, it's really bright and beautiful when you look through it.
Yep.
I will say that 20 to 60, the 30 to 70 in the new spotting scope,
right.
They got rid of the issue where you're at 30 and you crank, and as you magnify, you lose quality. I would say, if I'm being real honest, someone that's had every generation of Swarovski scope, that 20 to 60, when you get in that 55 plus, pushing it at 60, you lose something.
Yep.
And that's me being honest. And I have the 50 wide angles in my twins.
Right.
And it's totally different look.
100%.
It's bright. It's like,
yeah, they, and if I had to pick and choose, if someone said, if you were going to give me, I know this is completely contradictory to what I just said, but I would be okay with a 20 to 60 and an 80 millimeter because you're getting 80 millimeters of light coming to you. Mm-hmm. But if you were giving me a 65 millimeter, I would take the 25 to 50 in a heartbeat.
Because you need it.
I just think it's a better combination for the 65. But if you get it in the 25 to 80, I don't know. I was talking to one of the boys the other day, and they're doing Cash is doing a 25 to 80 twin spotter from Adam, and so I mean, knock yourself out. You're gonna love it.
Yeah. We need to help the next Instagram. These questions are from Instagram. He says we need to get this message across to the wives.
Oh boy.
He says, any chance Swarovski can do Christmas commercials like all the jewelry commercials so our wives will find out about it?
I always think
that'd be nice.
I always think back to the Kai Jay. The first thing I always do is just tell him it was on sale. But I always think back to the one guy who called me and he's like, Cody, he's like, hey, I'm gonna purchase these optics and I just want to be really clear. I mean this as serious as a heart attack. If I even receive a single email or anything, even a piece of paper in the box that shows a receipt, if there's even anything in there that even remotely shows a price, I will literally send them back and you'll refund me.
Say I didn't order them.
And I will not admit to it, and I will not purchase from you. That is an honest to God, true
That's fantastic.
statement from a guy that didn't
Scared
want
of
his wife to know.
That's fantastic. Okay. I already own 15 power SLCs and 12 NLs. Life is good.
Yeah, it's that golfing. He's got
wants
a lot of
the
clubs in
pros
his
and
bag.
cons when considering BTX 95 versus STX 95.
Well,
So he's already sitting fat with 12s and 15s.
yeah, you've got your choices covered with that deal, but so.
You kind of answered it before.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of answered it before, but again, it's, I would just tell somebody, like, again, I personally use the BTX for searching, for scouting, for finding deer at great distances.
Okay, so if it was the actual hunt, you would probably pare down and go with a bino.
I would go with the Bino and the STX.
The spotting.
And that's, I mean, if you go look at my pack that I'm packing right now, it literally will have the 15s and an STX. Well, I don't know what I did to my 85, but it's got a little rattle in it somewhere in there. I think I dropped it off the tailgate. I might have done that. So I'm going 95. So STX 95.
Right. So he's in the dilemma of spotting scope or dual eyepiece BTX. The only thing I'd say about the BTX is it's fixed power. If he's wanting to identify and
if he's an inch counter or he's trying to,
he needs to go with
the spotting scope. That's why I would do that.
Right. If he's just searching, go with the BTX.
Correct.
All right.
Which is by the way, which is why he should eventually have both. That's the whole.
Well, if he owns 15s and 12s, why not?
Yeah, but that's the whole point of the modular system.
Right. To be able to switch it.
So if he had to pick one or the other right now, that the question I would do to literally, I mean, say, what are you trying to do? If he's just searching for deer, go BTX. But if you're trying to inch count and, verify how big that thing is, or, am I going to go travel the 3 miles to go look at it, turn the power up, I'd go the STX 95.
Okay, here is a tactical question. No luck seeing mature coos this month. Do they have a pre-rut phase with more activity?
Sure they do. It's getting colder. We've just come out of a full moon. So, I don't know when the guy's looking but things will start.
Sounds like he has a December whitetail tag.
Yeah. Or he's hunting the archery,
right.
But he's just patience.
Right. And I think one of the things is everybody that draws that tag, they start thinking, I got the rut hunt. And they're just expecting it early. And typically it doesn't happen until, if it does happen, it happens after Christmas, especially for more mature deer. Most of the years, it's an after Christmas deal 100%. If they're going to move at all. But one thing you get right now before Christmas, no matter if you're in northern Arizona, you're going to get rutting quicker. Christmas time, there's a good chance in 6A and 22 and 23 and some of the central units, 27.
Yep.
You might get some bucks chasing does like mature bucks.
Yep.
Down south, it seems like
it's going to be a slower process.
A little bit later.
Correct.
But
did he say where
bucks,
he was?
No, he didn't say where he was. But you get these bucks right now that are working scrape lines.
Oh, yeah.
And they're just walking. And one of the challenges is you see a buck between now and, say, Christmas, and even after Christmas, and you catch him, and he's just walking. He makes a scrape. He keeps walking. He makes a scrape. He keeps walking. Or you check him, and he's just walking, checking a scrape, not even actually scraping.
Right.
And he's just moving.
Correct.
And sometimes they're very difficult to see.
Yeah, that's always
stay on.
That's always the, people always talk about the October hunt versus the, October hunt, those deer aren't going to be moving a lot
Right.
and
You throw
staying
a
pretty
blanket
put.
over.
Exactly. And when you get into the rut hunts and you see a deer on one time, that just it doesn't mean he's going to be there. And unless he's on a hot doe, just because you saw him right there doesn't mean you're going to see him. It might be in 10 days before he comes back to that spot again.
Question here, and it's just 3 words. Budget spotting scope question mark. It's kind of like made in America. 2 words for you. Made in America. You hear that? You're not commenting on that?
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to answer the question.
You don't know what his budget is, but
No,
I
I
think
don't.
what he's meaning is
he's meaning
spotting scopes that don't
he's
break
on a
the bank.
budget.
Right.
I mean, I'd be looking real serious at the Diamondbacks. If you can look at the Diamondbacks and the Vipers, there's a lot of guys who love those scopes and use them all the time, and we sell a boatload of them. And I think for the pricing, and both of those are under $1,000, and I think you absolutely should take a look at them because I think they'll do what you want it to do. One thing I would tell you is that this is just a me thing. If I was buying something under the $1,000 mark, this is just my opinion. Me personally, I would buy the 80 millimeter or the bigger objective.
Get more light.
I would want as much light as I could get over going with the smaller. That's the one instance where I would definitely take
the lower price point.
100%. I hope that answers his question.
Best lightweight backpack type spotting scope. If you had to choose, okay. That's one question. He's got several here. Best lightweight backpacking type straight spotter.
I
I gotta say the new. Swarovski.
It's the STC and the 554s are the eyepieces alone on those two.
The Koa 554.
The Koa 554 and the STC are absolutely, that's just the way to go.
Okay.
Was there a second parter to that?
Well, not really a second parter, but he says if you had to choose between 15 by 56 SLC HDs or 1250 EL HDs, mainly for coos deer hunting, which one?
The first thing I'll address is the HD part. The 1556 SLCs, there's only one binocular sold that's brand new, and it does not say HD on it, even though they're HD.
He's talking about the older generation, I'll bet.
Well,
Possibly.
all I'm saying
is they don't call the new ones.
They do not
the last
call they
3-4 year generation that are what we call new.
Correct.
They do not call them HD.
They do not say
he's probably
HD.
looking at the generation before if he's calling them HD.
I mean, I literally have people call me back and go, "Hey, these aren't HD." I'm like, "Well, yeah, they are. It's the only ones that Swarovski makes or sells, and they are all HD."
Right.
Swarovski decided many, many years ago, 5-6 years ago, that they're phasing out of quote unquote calling everything HD or not HD.
But just to clarify, the generation of Swarovski 15s before had HD and non-HD.
Actually, that's not true.
Okay, tell me what's true.
They were all HD all along.
Oh, and then they just stopped calling.
And then when the second, you remember how there was the ones in the middle that were called the new NEU?
Yeah.
They've always been HD. They've been the highest grade glass that you can have. But something happened when 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, I guess maybe it's 7, when they announced that they were coming out and shortening and, they were switching to the Abbey Koenig Prism and doing all that stuff that they were doing and changing them. and get, better IPD, lighter weight, 3/4 of an inch
Field flatteners.
Well, they didn't have, that's not in there, but that was the thing, is that it was weird because the public was like, oh, well, they're just coming out with an HD model. Well, they've always been HD, but it doesn't say HD on the box, doesn't say HD on the deal. So I just want to, just letting people know, everything they make is HD glass. In terms of the ELs,
So
it's
I
high
guess
quality.
my question though is he comparing the latest generation 15 by 56? I think so.
I think so.
And he's comparing the 1250 ELs.
Well, he calls it HD, but it's 1250 EL,
Right.
and
Let's compare the latest versions.
it's the latest versions.
What would you say for Coos?
I will always go with the 15s for Coos deer. And I don't want to bring this person up because I just had a phone call from a person that you and I know very well.
Did he cut his eye cups off like me?
There's a chance that he would, because there's things that drive him nuts. But he called me the other day and we were talking about a piece of glass. And he's like, Cody, you know what? He says, I was, helping with a sheep hunt. And he was like, I love my 12s. But he said when it got to the distance, he says these guys were eating my lunch. Mm-hmm. And he says it wasn't until I switched back to the 15s that I started picking up stuff way easier. Yeah. And I will flat out tell you,
12 pures,
this is a guy who knows glass. This is a guy who I would have on any hunt with me because I know he's got good eyes, and he's dedicated. And I'm, again, it's not a knock on the 1242s. But the distance that he was covering,
right? That you needed a 3 power.
That 3 power meant the difference, and I've always contested that. And I've said this story 100 times. Dark Holborn and I sitting eating lunch with Parker, on a nice little mesquite flat, looking up the mountain. I'm looking through my 12s. I glance over a spot. Dark goes, "Hey, did you catch those does up there?" I'm like, "What does?" I go back. He and I are comparing side by side. In the 15s, those does at 1,000 yards stood out like a sore thumb. In the 12s, I had to literally slow way down. So what's the moral of that story? Slow way down when you're glassing with lower power.
Sure.
So
with lower power, you tend to just really get moving fast.
Well, you're almost looking for the movement and right. the things that just stick out, and that's fine in certain situations. But for me, for the whitetail hunting, I just appreciate the longer view, the power of the 15s. But I'm not saying, I've had this conversation with Cash Armstrong, for a couple years now. There's places where Cash, I know, loves the 12s and needs the field of view, and there's places where the 15s come into play.
Sure.
So again, I don't know, that guy that has the 12s and the 15s, it's just like having golf clubs in your golf bag. There's different tools for different things, and you use them appropriately.
And he was talking about the 1250 ELs. And we're also, let's throw in the 12 power NLs.
Yep.
You're still talking 12 power. So
yeah.
My argument is for Coos, 9 times out of 10, I'm going 15s.
Yep.
If I know that I'm going to be in country where I'm not looking very far,
and you need the field of view.
And I need the field of view, I'm going to take my 12s.
Yeah.
I love the 12s. But for Coos, 99 out of 100,
yep.
I'm going to take the 15s. Just because of the extra 3 power, picking up those bedded deer, looking at those distances yep. where your eye is picking things up at a distance, and you can glass actually faster with 15s because your eye's picking it up.
Correct.
Where you go fast over it with 12s and your eye doesn't pick it up.
That's exactly, that's 100% right.
Okay, Cody's pointers for a late season rifle Coos tag in southern Arizona.
Man, find the does. Patience. I think with the shorter days, you got to really be wanting I think that making sure you're in your spot well before light and be prepared to stay until, well after, walking out in the dark, looking for the pockets of does. I would just say that if you're not seeing a ton of does, you're probably not going to see a lot of bucks. At a certain point, all that's going to collide.
Right.
And
early on, go to the places where just the bucks are. But as the hunt progresses, start really focusing on does. Remembering where you see does from the day before. When you sit down to glass, immediately check those does that are kind of in that area. Okay, they're there. There's nothing with them. Keep an eye on does, right?
Correct.
Be constantly kind of like, I know there's 3 over here, and there's 5 over here, and 2 over here.
Right.
And
those does, by the way, are the bucks at that time of year. They're making bigger and bigger circles and figuring out where they got to travel to find the does. The does are still pretty much homebodies. They're not going to be moving very much. And so if you find a pocket of does and you know that there's little bucks chasing one doe or a couple does around, sometimes it's just play, but there might be a hot doe in there that all of a sudden the next day there's a good buck on it.
The other tip that I would add, and I beat it up pretty good on my Instagram, is, and I think it's important, is after about an hour or 2 of glassing in the morning, obviously depending on whether it's normal cold temperatures or if it's warmer than normal.
Yep.
It might change my timing, but within an hour or 2, the deer, does and bucks kind of start focusing on where is shade.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that they're maybe still feeding, but they're going to ease more into shaded pockets, continue to feed, but ultimately looking over the next couple of hours, or where am I going to lay down?
Yeah, if weather is typical of that time of year, I 100%.
And I think you get guys that are looking in the open gimme spots early, and they don't make the transition after about an hour and a half, hour to 2 hours, let's say, to shifting focus from those open, easy spots, those gimme layups, to now let's totally shift focus and say, in the landscape that I'm hunting, if I just look at it from a very simple view, what part of these hills could a deer lay down and get some shade from 365 days a year?
Yep.
Meaning, you get to go home every night and sleep next to mama. They're outside sleeping next to mama. They learn real quick which hills have shade, which trees give shade.
That's correct.
Where they can go to stay cooler. And I get messages from guys all the time when the light finally goes off that, they're up feeding and doing their thing, but then every day of their life,
they
start seeking shade, which has us looking in those afternoon shade pockets. So you just come to a new bit of country, or you're looking on your map and you say, I like to do it when I just show up and I go, where would I go if I wanted to stay the coolest in the afternoon? If you told me right now you need to go sit somewhere in the afternoon and lay up for 3 or 4 hours, where would it be? That's where I'm going to start looking with my binos.
Yep.
After that first hour of good light, I'm going to start focusing on those types of areas, because you'll find deer coming into them and bedded down, feeding, laying down throughout the whole day.
It was an interesting thing when Ty and I went out the other day. Ty's so busy with his baseball schedule that, he doesn't get to come glass with me as much as he wants to. But, I told him, I said, what I want you to do is pay attention to that, that shaded side of the cut right there. And sure enough, the deer that we all saw were all coming out of those shaded spots. No, it was afternoon deal. All of them were coming out of the shade and going into the sun, in the afternoon, or at least moving around in that shade, or feeding.
Sure.
And so it was a pretty good lesson for Ty. But the The other thing that I was going to mention to you, I've had several reports of people hunting down south over the last couple months, and the grass is just horrendously tall in places, and so slow down.
The other thing, slow down in the grass. But one thing I found and I'm fully expecting it in Mexico, because some of our ranches got up to 33 inches is the highest I've heard.
Dar was talking about this. This is crazy.
And the grass is supposedly ridiculous. In that case, looking from low to high is very difficult.
Yep.
So what I like to do is get high, level with them, or higher than them, and look down, because it increases your angle.
That's exactly right.
I think that's important, to be able to, on years when there's no grass, you can sit lower and look up on a hillside, but it's very difficult because you'll only see the top of their tips of their rack.
Right.
Okay, got a question here. Koa 664 twin spotters or Swarovski BTX for coos and desert mule deer?
Well, first of all, both. Second of all, they're going to work for either. If you're a straight guy that likes straight, then get the 664s and enjoy it. If you like the BTX and you want the modularity of a whole system, get that, because they're both going to do it. Craig Steele's been using those 664s for, I don't know, it's got to be going on 7, 8, 9 years, something like. I mean, he's been using those for a long time and been incredibly successful with it, doing, what he does. And I know guys that are incredibly successful with the BTX. So, I think that question comes back to more of a thing of, do you want the ability and use a straight, or do you in the ability to turn up one of your eyepieces to one power or the other? Or do you want a modular system that you can use with the BTX?
Totally agree with you. I don't want to create problems or issues or unwanted phone calls, because you've answered it a million times. But Swarovski, I'm talking to you because I get this every week. People want to see a BTX that is variable. And surely someday,
I'm not saying it couldn't happen.
That has to come someday. Does it not?
I think it. Look, for the record.
And how awesome would it be?
For the record, I would love it. For the record, I would love a straight eyepiece too. I know that those pieces are labor intensive and extremely precise in how they're built. I don't know what it does if you put a variable in there. I don't know what it does if you make it a straight. I've been advocating for this, and I don't think it's on the horizon.
We can dream.
We can dream. I mean, look, I've said that before, and all of a sudden, but remember, there are products that they have started building today that you won't see until 5 years from now, because they will not put out something that they don't think meets the mustard, or cuts the mustard, makes the grade.
Okay, Loophole VX5 HD or Night Force at SHV F1 for long range hunting setup. Weight is not a major concern.
Love both. Familiar with both. I own the VX5. Use the VX5. Trust the VX5. That does not mean I'm not trusting the Night Force. I'm just more familiar with it. I love the locking turret. We are. Night Force will be in our future.
That the next question, ironically, from another
Night Force is in our future.
Will Go Hunt ever carry Night Force?
There's just certain products that we want, and there's some back orders and So they're getting through that, and so it is definitely in our future, and we will definitely have some fun with a good portion of that product line. So there, you heard it first, right there. I think we've been working on that.
The JSO podcast listeners, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a bit because we got some products it's being made.
Is Swarovski Spotter worth the money?
Well, I mean, for me, yeah, 100% it is.
For me, it is 100%.
We get asked, I get asked a lot, is this worth it versus that? And I will always come back to the three, my pillars of glassing. Buy the best you can, put it on a tripod, slow down when you glass, be methodical about it, right? And I say that because some guys misconstrue that first part of that is, oh, Cody says you got to buy 3,000. No, don't get me in trouble with your wife too. I don't need that pressure. What I'm saying is if you own a $200 pair and all you can do is go to 400 or 500, whatever you can do to create less eye fatigue and more time behind the glass. Okay? I think that's what you have to do. I didn't say because you're doing a $200 pair that you have to upgrade to the $2,000 pair. That's not. I'm just always try to upgrade to the next best piece. That's all I'm saying by that. And if a guy wants to go from the 200 to 2,000, fantastic. You're gonna love the difference, because Jay, I took out a pair. I'm not going to name the name of this, and I would never do that to a company. But I took a piece of glass out the other day that within 3 minutes of glassing, I was like, I can't do this. I could not. I had trouble focusing. Both sets of eyes, my son and myself. My Ty's got eyes 1,000 times better than mine, and mine are pretty good. I'm wearing readers now, but for close-up stuff. But when you get me into the field and I'm focusing binos, scopes, anything like that, I'm crystal clear. And again, those would be an upgrade over some other companies. But when I would sit there and compare those versus the my normal 1556s, the SLCs, it wasn't even a comparison. I was literally getting a headache.
Right.
And so I'm not trying to pound on anybody. I'm just trying to there's just a difference. There was no, I got them to where it is crisp and as good as I could. I worked the diopter setting, then focused with both eyes, and I really, really honestly tried, and they're pretty good. But there was just something about that edge to edge, and it wasn't the rolling ball effect or anything. But boy, I tell you, it just within a couple 3 to 5 minutes, I was like, man, you could just tell I was kind of getting headachy.
All right, next question. What should you do if you lose a deer in the thick stuff? Stock in and assume, or wait?
Well, I'm assuming he's meaning that he just walked into thick stuff.
Yeah.
Or are we talking after the shot?
If he walked in. No, I think he's just.
I'm assuming it's walked in. Yeah, yeah.
How much time has gone by? There's a lot of questions I'd like to ask.
Patience is a virtue in that one, but
like how long have you been waiting? Yeah, they just went in the thick. You got to wait them out.
I always think about, well, is it a thick that has a lot of
exit routes?
There's a lot of you don't know where the thick stops and starts.
Right.
Or is it like an island, or if it's an island kind of a deal and that deer walks into a thick stuff,
He's toast.
that means that somebody in my group is not taking their eyes off of that until we've vetted that.
Right.
But I would tell you, what was the second part? He said, or go in after him?
Go in after and assume, or wait it out.
No. If you can't see and you don't know, you're not. That's the discipline.
100%.
That's the discipline right there.
You don't just wing it and go in.
Nope.
What tripod have you found to be the smoothest for filming, running outdoorsman's now? Well, I've been using the Slick.
I was going to say, you've been using the Slick forever. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I mean, I've been loving my Slicks.
Yeah.
I've been playing and toying with we had a couple of Sioux Rays out the other day. I still go back to, like, I have no problems with the old, like, Manfrotto 290 extras. That's been around. That model, it's changed over the years. It was a 3001 BN, and
it's like a 30-year-old.
And then it went to 190, and then they upgraded the 190, and they made it a 290 extra, and so that's been around forever.
Well, when you talk about, he's talking about tripod smoothest.
He's probably talking about the heads.
We need to talk about the heads.
But the heads.
The Sure VA5.
Sure VA5.
My camera stuff.
And I've been using a lot with the bigger stuff, is like the BTX. I've been in the 115. I've been using the VH10.
Yeah.
I've been really, really positive about that.
What he wants with the camera is you don't want a tripod head that's jumpy, that doesn't change, transition from side to side or up and down jumpy. You don't want that camera jumpy.
I always call it slop, or it doesn't have a lot of reverb or a little pushback. When you finish it and you let go of it, it basically it's very smooth, and it stops and fluid. It's fluid.
Right. I
had to explain that to a guy the other day with a tripod company, by the way, that we've been working on some stuff, and I would like to see some changes on some things, and I explained them, like, if I do figure eights, I want to let go and have it just stop, and I want it to do it with a multitude of optics.
Right.
From
and then
this
I want
range,
to be able to push it with my nose.
and then exactly. I was trying to explain that, and they're looking at me like I had a third head, but it was.
Okay, will Swarovski ever step up into the monocular rangefinder game for tree stand hunters? It would be nice for Leica, or to come out with a 5 to 6 power zoom.
They have stepped up to that, and by virtue, when I say that, call us. If you're not looking at the Collis Helia, you're missing something. Look at the Collis Helia. It's a fantastic unit. I've been carrying one for almost a year now. And I will put it right up next to the 2400R from Leica. But I understand what they're saying, about the bow hunters, but that Collis Helia, don't kid yourself. That's a great little spotter. Great little monocular, compact rangefinder.
Monoc. Vortex Diamondback Tactical. FFP scope for hunting, both models.
Basically a more economic friendly, budget minded, packed with a lot of bells and whistles. Sold a boatload of them and have gotten no negative feedback from it. Expectations met.
Any quick, easy, in-the-field tips for cleaning and keeping your lenses clean?
Preventative maintenance first.
What?
Preventative maintenance first. Like,
what's that?
Keep them covered when they're not being used.
I was joking.
Oh, well, stop cutting your eye cups off. That would be one. I would just tell. I always, I just created a couple little packs, for this hunt. But I always have a brush that I can brush dust off, and I always
Lightly brush dust. Right?
lightly brush dust off, and then I always have a package of lens wipes. And I prefer, either the Zeiss or you see them mainly under Zeiss or Nikon.
The wet ones?
Well, not wet one. Well, yeah, the wet ones, but I mean not the brand wet ones,
Right.
but I like I was in,
You're
where
not
was I
using
the other
butt
day?
wipe on your optic.
No. Do not use the dude wipes on your optics. I was in Walmart the other day, walking out, and right there, kind of coming out of the Walmart, there must have been a stand that was, it had to have been, the size of a refrigerator, and it was
Screaming your name.
100% Zeiss lens wipes. They had like a 60 count and like a 100 count.
Did you load up?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I might have turned back and made another purchase. I was a little low on the lens wipes. But I would just preventative maintenance, keeping them covered when they're not in use, and then brushing. Some guys keep a little air squeeze bottle with them, to blow stuff off. That's fine too. I don't normally do that just because the bulbs that I like to blow stuff off with are typically a little bit bigger, but
I just got a text message in from Matt Ashley with Go Hunt, and he said, Jay, I believe you're on a podcast. We are going to turn back on the 100-point insider offer like we had going over Black Friday.
Fantastic, yeah.
So here I was, my phone buzzed, and I was listening to you, but maybe I should talk about this.
Matt Ashley.
He said this would be a great thing to include in your podcast. The code is Jay Scott 100. So if someone buys an insider membership for $149, which gets you all of the mapping, the new mapping stuff.
All of the mapping.
Phenomenal. It gets you all of the insider tools.
Yep.
All of the data, all of the harvest statistics, all of the unit breakdowns, strategy articles.
Monthly drawings, points.
Points back, which
points
is huge.
back for the gear shop,
so if
everything.
you sign up for $149, they're going to $100 credit back in the Go Hunt gift shop.
Correct.
So immediately in the gear shop, you're going to get to spend $100. So I don't know how long this is going to be. A limited time, he said. I can text him how long is limited, but limited time. So guys, go to gohunt.com, use JScott100, sign up for the insider. You're going to get mobile mapping, which is, how are you digging these maps?
Loving it.
They're incredible, aren't they?
Oh, it's been, and I use it for fraud, like identification stuff. When I'm figuring out, when we get fraud identities and I'm figuring out who lives where, I go through everything. Yeah, I use it for that. I use it, Wade and I were using it, Wade went out scouting for me yesterday in this hunt, and I've been using it.
I've been using it in Mexico.
Religiously.
The topo doesn't work because they don't have good topo in Mexico, but all my ranches in Mexico. So I go on the Go Hunt map and put all the roads, all the boundaries, water tanks, glassing points, and the 3D even works.
Oh, okay.
Which is incredible. So I can, all 50 of my ranches or whatever, I can map them out on Go Hunt mapping.
Right.
And then it's on my phone. So I save my maps offline.
Right.
And when I go down there, I have where the road structure is, new ranches that I haven't been to. It's pretty sweet.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I've been using it stateside. The topo for me, all that works incredibly well. Yeah. The 3D is probably my favorite feature.
I like to be able to share, like yesterday.
Right.
I shared a whole folder that was just, hundreds of points.
Right.
And data.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, you can do that.
Just share and boom, send it off. I'm like, did it work? He's like, yeah, I'm looking at it right now, which is awesome.
So are you, when you go down with your well, I mean, you're not in every camp because so much of it is do it yourself. But so are you providing that for that particular ranch? That's awesome.
Yeah. So I provide maps to everyone.
Well, that's Go Hunt doing its thing.
Jay Scott 100 guys, go save some money. Okay.
Thank you, Matt.
Don't text me anymore, Matt. I'm busy, but that was a great one. I tend to get headaches from the optics. I use Viper HD 1250s. Is it the quality of glass?
I don't think I don't think it is somewhere in there, no different than me talking about the glass that I was looking at and testing. There might be somebody that looks through those and that never have an issue, never have a problem, anything perfectly well. It's possible. I would certainly, what I would do is I would try to figure out if you look through other pieces of glass, if you have that same experience. And then the other thing to consider is it possible that if you've had these pieces of glass for a while, is it possible that they're out of collimation?
And have someone else look through them and ask them if they see the same thing.
And that's 100. That was just the next suggestion. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So there's a kind of some things to go through there, and I would never be above sending my binoculars in to have them recollimated or to make sure that the focusing mechanisms are 100%, functioning, working, and intact.
Okay, I'm afraid that this question is going to be its own podcast, but just can you because I want to get to some of these others, and maybe you can contact this guy outside of this and talk to him directly. But Kestrel and Bluetooth rangefinder or rangefinder binoculars, which one and why?
Well, I would actually have that guy to reach out to me, and I don't care, 602-399-3699. Those conversations, because there's so much detail that goes into that, because there's a lot of different brands, Leica's, Sig Sauer, you get into the Revic, BR4, just have that guy call me.
Okay.
That sounded like you were working for me at a moment. No, just tell if you're listening,
I want to get
please
to these
call
other
me.
ones.
602.
I know that one could take you 30 minutes.
602-399-3699. More than happy to spend the time and go through it with you.
For solely tripod glassing coos and mule deer, would you rather have 12 NLs or SLC 15s? I think we answered this.
Yeah.
SLC 15s, we would both lean towards it.
Yeah.
Unless we knew that we were not going to be looking at long distances and peripheral view, field of view, wide angle was important in scanning and
I've always just said, look, mule deer. I think mule deer are a little easier to see in a lot of terrains and 12s may be the ticket for somebody somewhere else. I tend to lean on the 15s for the big stuff, and that's okay.
Next question, do I upgrade to 12s? This is an East Coaster. Do I upgrade to 12s on a tripod or smaller spotter? East Coast guy who goes west once a year.
Well, the first thing I would say is that what you should be considering is that I hope you're at least putting your 8s or 10s on a tripod. If you're not doing that, because that, to me, that answers the follow-up question is which one do I upgrade to? Because if you're successful with let's just say a set of 10 by 50s on a tripod, I know, and Jay, we all know people that have been real successful with 10 by 50s in a spotting scope.
Yeah.
And some of those people have the most.
That's what I used to use forever.
Well, I mean, forever. And some of those people have some of the most awesome coos deer collections that I've ever seen in my life. So, the bottom line is that, 10 by 50s in a spotting scope would work. But I don't know. Maybe that person feels like they need a little bit more magnification because of the certain areas that they're hunting. But I think it kind of depends on what you're doing with the 8s or 10s that you're already using.
I think you have to have a tool that you're spotting the animals with, and the very next step is if you have a good tool for that,
Right.
then you need a tool to identify.
Correct.
If you're a meat hunter and could care less and you just want to shoot a buck, then go with binos.
Right.
If you want to see whether it's a 3-point buck or a 4-point buck, or more importantly, or more specifically, if you want to see whether it's a 5-inch
That's
G2
correct.
or an 8-inch G2, go with the spotter.
Yep.
Mid-money range spotter for primarily backpack hunting.
Vortex Viper 65. Even if you go to the Razor 11 to 33 by 50. Yeah, I think that's what he means by mid-range money is, below that $1,000 mark or above that, right in that area. But yeah, that I would start looking at those. The Viper and the Viper and the Razor would be really good for that.
Is the new SLC 15 by 56 great? Coos optic? Yes, I won't even go into it.
But 100%.
That's the best tool you could have.
If I just had to have one for coos deer, that's what I would go with.
What adapter do you use for your twin spotters? Other preferred options. I use an adapter. So how long have I had those twins now? 8-9 years?
Well, something like it's probably it's probably been 8 years.
And
That was Benny Wells.
I've never taken the scopes off
Right.
the adapter, and they've been on the whole time. They've never been knocked out.
Yep.
And I don't even know if he's making them anymore. But there's this new guy. I haven't talked to him, but Adams Adapters.
Yep.
It's kind of like doing it a lot.
Well, he just.
right?
I mean, I think he's a machinist by trade, and I think that.
I'm hearing people.
Yeah, no, I mean Benny did a great job, and I think Benny has another profession, and I think he's doing other things, and I think he rode that horse, and he was glad to do it. But and Benny, if I'm wrong, please call me if you're listening or somebody. If he has a few units left, help him out. It's awesome stuff. But at the same time, Adams Adapters has been doing a really, really good job. It's a little bit different mount, and he's put some really good things, in place. And by all accounts, and I've talked to a lot of people, he's done a really good job with it. And the mounts are solid, and they're repetitive, meaning that people are able to, put them back together and do that. But my personal view on it is that if I'm buying twin spotters and I'm putting them together, once I lock them in, they're not coming out.
Right. You're not using that
I'm not
spotting
going.
scope for something else.
I want them when I get them. He by the way, he does a really good job of putting them together and getting them to a place that where you can make some adjustments. But I would just tell you that once I get my IPD set and once I have them completely focused, I'm not changing.
Dialed in.
They're staying that way.
Okay, difference in budget rangefinder versus $1,000 to $1,500 rangefinder.
Well, it kind of depends on which ones they're talking about, but glass quality can be an issue. The bells and whistles, that does it just operate in like an angle compensation and line of sight mode, or a bow mode, or does it operate, say, linking up to a ballistics program or a mapping program, or there's a lot to cover in there. And so I would tell that person to call me so we can get more specific. 602-399-3699.
As a general rule, how long do you glass one spot when looking for deer? He doesn't clarify whether it's coos or mule deer.
Well, For me personally, it kind of depends on the situation. If I know there's a buck there and it's, say, early season, I'll probably spend a little bit more time hanging out and really trying to stay there and figure out where he's at within a certain area. If it's late season, I might be a little more apt to move to different places because that, if I'm at a good place that I can see 4 or 5 different pockets of does, I'll hang out, but I may switch if I'm not seeing a lot of movement or red activity or, I don't know, maybe those does aren't, coming into estrus. And so I think it just depends on the situation. I mean, I don't know if
my thing is, I think there's people that sit in one spot way too long, and I think there's people that don't sit in one spot long enough.
Yep.
And the hard part is kind of finding the middle ground.
Exactly.
I think early on, years ago, we were taught the grid system, and we were taught to work over a bit of country and work left to right, right to left, and work it like a grid.
And repeat it over and over again.
And I go sit next to Dark Holborn. If I'm just sitting there watching him at first light, he is literally shotgunning all over the place. He's looking left, right, up, down. He's panning. And I look over, and one of our clients is literally sitting looking at the same spot. I look over at Dar, and he's just all over, panning left, right, up, down. He's getting up, moving 2 feet, looking left, looking right, looking up, down, moves over another 2 feet, looks over. He's looking. For the first 30 minutes, he's just scanning.
Yep.
No rhyme or reason. Then I look over, and Dar is slowed down.
Yes.
And he's after a couple hours, and he's focusing on one spot. And I look over at the client, and he's over there shotgunning.
Yeah, exactly.
They have it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right.
When the deer are really moving, move to. Go quicker.
Yep.
Look at it fast.
Well, it's we've always talked about it. Is that like I always call it, look for the escape routes first. Like I always kind of look at, saddles and places where if they go over the top, you're not going to, look at those places first.
Right.
And certainly like at the first light, you might have to look real close, look real close because you don't,
you just hiked up in there.
You could have deers you could be right on something and not know it. And if you're not looking close and people ask why I carry 8s for so long. That's why I love putting a set of 8s on a tripod and looking at everything close real quick. And it happens more often than not that I'm like, oh, man, we might have pushed in here a little deep. But the fact of it is that I think there's different scenarios. And in Dar's example of shotgunning or speed glassing or power glassing, as I've heard guys call it, but absolutely 100%. You just got to know the time to do it.
But then you also want to glass with confidence. So you want to expect to see and find what you're looking for. And we all get kicked in the teeth at times where you're looking and you don't see what you're looking for. We all fight the urge of, do I need to leave? That's a fine line of why am I here? Why did I pick this point to glass off of? If I feel like I've hit it,
right,
and hit it efficiently, and I'm not seeing the numbers of deer, or even in a low density spot, if I'm not seeing deer at all, then I'm going to move because I feel like I can move to another point, get a whole new fresh view. In 15 minutes I can bounce over and move. But then there's times when you need to just sit down, slow down, and work it over. And until you glass enough and get confidence in that, it's going to take a while to know whether you're taking too long or you're doing it too fast.
That's 100% correct. So here, let me ask you this question, because you get so many people with varying degrees of skill level in terms of glassing, right? Mm-hmm. Is it a correct statement?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when the first deer is seen for the day, do you ever take the time and lock that guy in on that deer just so that he can get okay, hey, look, this is the distance, this is
body proportion,
here's the proportions, the coloration.
Sure.
I think I did that with Ty the other day, And I realized like how important it was, because once he did that, he full on understood and found the next deer.
Right.
He knew what he was, he knew what he was comfortable looking at now.
Right.
And I think that that's really important. But I would also tell you in those situations that we're talking about, once you've locked that guy or that person and everybody's kind of seen that first deer, what I always find fascinating is that when you find a doe, I don't like chasing the does around, like in pulling everybody's attention to the one doe.
I got deer.
Hey, great. Like, we're going to look at that one deer,
right.
And then we need to go back to looking at different stuff, because all of a sudden everybody's concentrating on one deer, and let's just say it takes 15 or 20 minutes for everybody to get through that.
Missed your buck
and now
you
got bucks over here that are gone.
Right.
So I think that's if you got people with you and you're doing, like, get everybody acclimated and then get everybody looking at different things in different places. Because if every time you find a deer and you're chasing that deer,
you're not looking for new deer.
You're exponentially creating less chance for you to find deer.
I mean, it's one
now,
of
if you find a big buck or something, that's a whole different story. But
I'm going to give people advice that are going to hunt with my hunting partner that's going to be guiding them in Mexico. Don't go sit right next to him, and when you see deer, unless he asks you, don't tell him you're seeing deer. Just let him do his thing. He doesn't want to sit and talk. He doesn't want to know how many deer you're seeing. And when I sit next to him and I go, I got deer, he sometimes doesn't even respond.
Yeah.
Because he's already looked at 7 or 8 deer and hasn't told you. He's looking for a specific buck, or he's looking for a good buck. And just like what you're saying, if you happen to be sitting and someone's glassing next to you, it's one thing if, like, after 4 hours no one's seen anything, then we all rejoice when someone says, I got a deer. Okay, where? Let's look at it. But in the first hour, it should be kind of an unwritten rule of, like, everybody knows what we're looking for.
Just pump the brakes.
Maybe after about 30, 40 minutes, or even if someone pops out of their binos and catches eye contact, you can be like, you doing all right? I'm seeing a few. Yeah, I'm seeing a few. Okay, back at it.
Yeah.
But, like, just because you see a doe here and a doe there, let the other person concentrate on what they're doing. Because how many times have you gotten, especially in a group situation where there's several guys, and you and I probably both are guilty of it, of just shellacking the other one, where we're like, deer, 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 deer. And what you do is you get the person that's sitting next to you following you. Because you got deer over here.
That's an easy way to get breakfast paid for, brother.
You get a hot hand going.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a bad habit, because
you're just making yourself, the group, less efficient.
Yeah, your efficiency goes way down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's kind of fun. Your opinion on Zeiss Conquest HD 10x42 binos?
Fantastic piece. $1,000 piece of glass. I've used them, and you tripod mount them. There's a lot you can do with that, and I would tell you, absolutely, if you're considering it, do it. You'll love them.
What's your favorite tripod setup and why? Mine is the Slick 834.
Dude,
833.
You can't do that. You can't take mine.
The next is the 733 or 734 with the Sure VA5 head. I've been using it since Cody turned me onto it for several years, and it's my go-to.
Because I'm always testing, I've been using a 933.
Ooh.
I've been using a 933 with a VH10 head, and it's worked out really, really well. I can shoot from it. I can do a lot of different things from it.
Super stable.
My go-to has kind of been, if I'm away from the truck, it's been the 834. So I've been real happy with that. I like a mid-weight tripod. Now if I was, like your sheep hunt deal, that's a whole different ball of wax. But when you're trying to ounce count, I have a 634 with a VA5 head on it that I absolutely love. But,
Right, but if you're just
for
gonna go out
my
and
go-to
glass-
general everyday deal, I normally lean on the 834 and the 933
Yeah.
slicks.
Um,
And I have been using a Suray 124 that I actually really like too. So give those a whirl. I can see you thumbing through a bunch of stuff over there. You must have gotten obliterated with
ever
questions.
heard of certain glass making people sick, nauseous, even on a tripod? Not with the old ones.
100%.
We
I'm not
kinda already
sure.
talked about it a little bit.
I know, but I'm not sure. Okay, so the thing that normally causes that is what's typically referred to as the rolling ball effect. And if anybody's ever picked up a pair of binoculars and then like moved with them, like scanning a bird, a lot of people get it for different reasons. Maybe when they're moving. I generally don't ever. Matter of fact, I've only experienced it one other time before this one incident. But there was a piece of glass that I will tell you. I don't even want to mention the name, but it was a very well-known company, and I had great hopes for the piece of glass. And there's a lot of people that I've sold that glass to that have no problems with it, whatever. But I'm telling you that we were looking for a big old 108, 110 inch deer one day, and I pulled these out, and it was light, and I wanted to get a wide field of view and have them be super, super bright. And I put these on a tripod, and I went to start glassing, and within about 30 seconds, the first time that I moved, Jay, it dropped me to my knees. I literally spent 2 hours trying to unmess myself up because I literally went down and took basically took a nap, and then got up and tried to, that effect happened, and I've never had it happen on another piece of glass like that, but I instantly got nauseous.
Question here: new Koa 88 versus the previous model. Compare and contrast.
The optics is all the same. They just changed the body and construction. I mean, the glass is phenomenal. It's an incredible piece, and I would tell them, I don't know exactly why they did it that way, but I think they were trying to uniform some things and get in line with the new 99s and have all of them be on the same page. And I think that, but the glass in them is incredible.
Scope that doesn't weigh 2.5 to 3 pounds for Western hunting, shooting steel at 1,000 and solid 3 to 800 yard big game optic. Ideas are NX8, Mark 5, or March, all in lower power, i.e. 3 to 18 to 3 to 24. My new build is a 7mm 6.5 PRC, probably FFP and MOA.
Well, the March thing, that scope's been around for a while. I've never shot one. I've never sold them. I'm not. I believe it was a German company, but I think they're all Japanese made. It's been a while since I've really played with them and looked at them. The NX8, fantastic. I always say battle proven, battle tested. It's been put through the ringer. I love the different variations you can get in magnifications. I trust that 100%, but I also trust the Mark 5s. I don't think you can go wrong with either of those. I wish I could comment better. I think the Marches kind of made a play on to the PRS and NRL series, and there's some guys that shoot them on there. So I just reserve. I'm not going to say anything with something that I've never played with or shot like that. But if he wants to have a more in-depth conversation, just have him. Just call me 602-399-3699.
Any experience with the loopholed SX5 spotters looking to upgrade but don't have Swaro money? Same guy. Any experience with loopholed SX5 looking to upgrade but don't have Swarovski budget?
Man, I tell him to look at the. I tell him to maybe pay attention and look at the. I'm just losing my train of thought. The Koa 77, 773 or 774. So I think that would be a real good option. And I mean, for the money where he's at that 1799. I mean, that's a great place to be in. That's a great performer. But if he wants to just go, one tier up and he can do that. The other thing is to think about, I don't know exactly where his ceiling is, but you could think about going with a 25 to 50 by 65, HD, or, I mean, there's a couple different options in there.
General thought, Leica versus Swaro. Tough to compare anything against the NLs.
Well, first and foremost, you got two of the best, pieces of glass in the world right there. Leica, I just sold a pair of Leicas yesterday, and, it was funny because everything I said, that guy experienced, and the Leicas tend to have a bit of a blue tint, whereas Swaros have a little bit more of an amber tint, if you will, a yellow or an amber. And I would have no problems if you said, if you want 1250 ELs versus, the 1250 Ultraviolet HTVs. I'm not going to be disappointed with either one of those. When you bring the NLs into it, the one thing that the NLs have over everything I just mentioned is the field of view is so much, wider. So the glass on them is incredible. But again, you're still talking about the upper echelon of glass. So it wasn't that the NLs had just an amazing upgrade in overall glass, but it's what they did with them to, help you with the field of view, and the made them so that they're lightweight, and they did all that. That was not the thing. It was just that, oh my God, you're getting an overwhelmingly brighter, clearer piece of glass. It's but yeah, Leica. Really, the differences that you're going to see are the colors.
Cody, that's a wrap on the Q&A. Do want to remind guys, go to Go Hunt, sign up for the Insider, use the Jay Scott 100. You're going to get a $100 credit back in the gear shop. So you're going to get all of the Insider for $49 is basically what it boils down to.
And I would just tell guys, you can email at optics@gohunt.com. My email is cody@gohunt.com. My cell number is 602-399-3699, or you can call the main number at 702-847-8747, and I will do everything I can to get back with you that same day, and I work very hard at doing that.
And I get messages literally every day of guys that you helped, and odd hours that you helped, and all hours that you helped, and the amount of personal interest that you took in their situation. And that's one of the things that I think makes you special and different, is you literally take the time to figure out what is it that they need and how do I fill that need, because everybody's situation is different. Everybody's what they're hunting is different, and it means a lot that you take care of my people. And I encourage you guys to reach out to Cody, tell him you're a Jay Scott Outdoors podcast listener, and just thanks for taking care of people.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I just try to help people for what they need and what they're looking for. I try not to put everybody in a box and just send them out the door. I try to give people a very unique and kind of a personalized custom experience, and to what their needs are. And I just appreciate you helping us out and giving me the opportunity to be on the podcast. And it's again, I get humbled just by the amount of feedback we get, but I just love doing it. Just love helping people out.
Yeah, well, thanks for doing it for so long and with the intensity that you've done it. Guys, thanks for listening to the podcast. Mexico Coos deer season for me is right around the corner here in January. Getting all of my do-it-yourself and guided groups, getting all their paperwork done, gun permits, getting all that in line. Going to have a big year. The monsoonal rains, 2 monsoon seasons in a row. I think antler growth is going to be fantastic. If Arizona is any hint as to what Mexico might be, I think we're going to have probably one of the better years we've ever had down there. If you are interested in a hunt, reach out on Instagram, send me a DM. I am booking now for 2024. Also announced that we're going to be doing some mule deer hunts this year. Already have some mule deer ranches lined up for next year. So if you're interested in that, send me a message. Also, desert bighorn sheep hunts in Mexico. Send me a message if you're interested in that. And just love getting the messages from you guys on these December hunts and how the rut's going and how your hunt's going. I just appreciate you listening. Cliff Gray has been doing a bunch of guest hosting on the podcast. He's had Chad Mendez. He's had Alan Bolin. He's had a really cool podcast episode with the guy that has axis deer in Hawaii. But he's doing a really good job. Everyone loves Cliff, so check out those episodes. And thanks again to Go Hunt, the Go Hunt Insider. They've been my title sponsor of this podcast since the beginning in 2015. Believe it or not.
Can't believe it.
We are coming up here in another month, 8 years on the podcast, almost 850 episodes, 70 million downloads. It's
closing in on the 1,000.
Been an unbelievable run. Thanks, guys, for all of your, attention that you give this podcast. I want to thank the sponsors, Go Hunt, KUIU, Phone Scope. Just been a great run here, and let's keep it going. And thanks, Cody, for coming. And
well, thanks for doing what you do, Jay. Let me have a platform.
Looking forward to the next episode.
So, yes, sir. Guys,
take care. If you want to send me a message, you can reach out on my Instagram account. Send me a DM. You can also send me an email, jayscottoutdoors@gmail.com. And that's a wrap. God bless, guys. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.